Pitti Palace is the largest of Florentine palaces. It witnesses the immense power. It all started when a recognized Florentine merchant, Luca Pitti, commissioned Brunelleschi to build a private residence in the middle of the 15th century. Before being able to use it for the first time, he died and the palace remained inhabited for approximately 4 centuries by 3 dynasties, the Medici, the Lorraine, and the Savoy. After 76 years of Luca's death, the palace came back to life in 1549 by Eleonora de Toledo, Cosimo's de Medici's wife. After the palace had new owners, it was reconstructed the main front and rear sections. Their new courtyard was designed, better known as the Bubbly Gardens. They were created as a mixture between art and nature, which led them to become the model for royal palaces throughout Europe. The Medici family, who ruled Florence for almost 300 years, and also the Lorraine family, continued to enrich and enlarge the gardens also in the 17th, 18th, and 19th centuries. As a synonym to show their power, they wanted not only the biggest palace, but also to surround it with the best artists. After the Medici dynasty ended, this palace became part to the crown of Italy, even though it was inhabited by the King Victor Manuel II in the years when Florence was the capital of Italy, from 1865 to 1871. Bianca Capello was an Italian noblewoman who was a mistress, and afterwards the second wife of Francesco I de' Medici, Grand Duke of Tuscany. She belonged to one of the richest and noblest Venetian families. She fell in love with Pietro Bonaventuri, a young Florentine clerk in the firm of Salvati. She did not get on well with her husband's family, who were poor and made her do menial work. Even though Prince Francesco, son and heir of the Grand Duke, was married, was attracted by Bianca's beauty and conquered her. In 1572, Pietro was murdered in the streets of Florence in consequence of some amorous intrigue, though it is possible that Bianca and Francesco were involved. On the death of Cosimo in 1574, Francesco succeeded to the Grand Duchy and installed Bianca in his palace, known as Palazzo di Bianca Capello. In 1576, she gave birth to Antonio de' Medici, but he was not openly acknowledged as Francesco's heir. Actually, his brother Cardinal Ferdinand hated her for what he considered messy decisions from her part. In October 1587, at Villa de' Medici, Francesco and Bianca died on the same day. That's why there are many speculations of them being poisoned. In 2006, forensic and toxicology experts at the University of Florence reported evidence of arsenic poisoning in a study published in the British Medical Journal. In 2010, evidence of the parasite Plasmodium falciparum, which causes malaria, was found in Francesco's remains. This is why also some historians believe that it was for malarial fever, not an act of evil. Palazzo Guadagni increased its relevance in the history of the Kingdom of Italy when, in 1865, Florence became the capital of Italy. It was then when the Prime Minister Urbano Ratazzi resided in this old Florentine residence. The social relevance of Palazzo Guadagni for the Santo Spirito neighborhood was enhanced in the 20th century, when it was the home to the pension Scroll Bandini, the German Institute for Art History, as well as when it became the seat of the Pietro Trouar Town Library. Later on, the residence was left as a legacy of a welfare association, which was after sold to the Guadagni family. By request of Duke Ferdinando I de' Medici, Fort Belvedere was built to serve 2 purposes. It was conceived as a defense against invading armies, as well as a powerful instrument to keep the city in check. And secondly, to offer safe refuge for the Medici family in case of an internal uprising, through its direct connection with the Bubbly Gardens and the Pitti Palace. The fortress is characterized by its polygonal plan and by the small villa located in the center. This fortress is a good example of Italian military architecture from the Renaissance. It contains elements with a pure military function, such as the inclined bastions, but also evokes propagandistic purposes. Fort Belvedere was conceived as a proof of the Medici's power, as it is suggested by the villa built on top. This small building is clearly visible from the city, and its shape is unmistakably in the panorama of the hills of the southern side of Florence. Few know that it was the site of some of Galileo's greatest discoveries. Galileo visited Forte Belvedere to complete some of his most important studies in astronomy. These 5 mentioned places were the most relevant in the history of Florentine powerful families.